And we continue at 2:06 in the afternoon on the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wang's in Culver City.
It is now after 2 o'clock on a Friday. I have hit refresh 10,000 times, and there is still no update from the Alameda County Registrar's Office on who won the Oakland mayoral election.
So it's officially the close of business on the East Coast right now.
They are not posting any updates. There's no notifications. Nobody knows if Lauren Taylor or Barbara Lee won, and it doesn't seem like anybody in Alameda County seems to care.
800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. Well, we know that when President Trump came to Los Angeles and he was cracking skulls, telling the locals that they needed to get the rebuilding process started in Pacific Palisades and Altadena pronto, they told him what he wanted to hear. The moment he left town, that's when they told us, well, it's really going to be about 5 years. But we're going to try as hard as we can to streamline the process to get everything going. Well, Randy, 100 days after the Palisades fire, permitting is going very, very slow.
But Karen Bass will tell you it's the fastest it's ever been. For more, here's Fox 11.
Today marks 100 days since the deadly L.A. wildfire started. L.A. Mayor Karen Bass in Pacific Palisades today saying the cleanup is ahead of schedule.
Fox 11's Matthew.
What was the schedule?
Well, she said 5 years
Fox
for
11's
rebuilding.
Fox 11's Matthew Seedorf continues our coverage from there in Malibu, and it looks like quite a mess still behind you, Matthew.
Yeah, Alex, in some ways there's been a lot of things that have changed. In other ways, a lot of things that haven't changed. As you said, look at this mess. You can still see all the debris left over from these homes that burned down, but more changes are on.
We haven't gotten rid of that in 100 days?
Well, maybe after 200 days.
But more changes are on the way.
We need far more resources to the fire department.
Mayor Karen.
Monday's going to be so ugly. Monday, Karen Bass unveils the budget, and it's not going to go well.
Well, you know, we spend more money on the homeless than we do on fire.
I do know that. We spend more money on homeless than almost anything. As much as Ulysses and Hugo want to talk about the police budget, the homeless budget is what has bankrupted the city of Los Angeles.
Oh, by the way, did you see a homeless person just won the lottery?
I did see that.
Okay, here's what I think they should do. Someone over at Netflix, if you're listening, Reed Hastings, should do a program where you follow this person around with cameras to see if the millions of dollars improve this person's life. But you're not going to be able to make it into an actual television program because it won't last 8 episodes. You better have enough for 90 minutes, turn it into a documentary, because that guy is going to be broke within 100 days of cashing that check.
We need far more resources to the fire department.
Says the woman that made it so impossible for the fire department to hire mechanics that there were a bunch of dilapidated, broken fire trucks on the day of the fire.
Well, it doesn't matter that she cut the fire department budget there, Randy, because we did hire safety ambassadors.
Mayor Karen Bass announcing no budget cuts to LA's fire department. Now 100 days since one of LAFD's biggest challenges ever, the deadly Palisades fire.
LA's disaster recovery is on track to be the fastest in modern California history.
That's not saying much.
No, it's not. And it still looks like a bomb went off over there.
She's all smiles, but things are going slowly. I know we've brought things to her attention.
Luke Melcher, a contractor working in the Palisades and Eden fire zones. 100
you
days.
notice, by the way, how you talk to the boots on the ground, you get a totally different story than you do from the people at City Hall.
This is why people have lost confidence in Karen Bass. You just cannot believe the things that she's saying. Everything's going great means everything's not.
I do think that Elon buying Twitter has changed the world in so many different ways. But remember when the fire was going on, when the fire was actively burning, and we were being told that there was no water in the fire hydrants, and there was pushback immediately from City Hall saying that was fake news, that was propaganda, and that was not true, not verified. But you'd see the reporters who were out there on the scene talking to the homeowners, talking to the firefighters, and they were the ones that were saying there was no water.
Remember Gavin tried to put out a misinformation website about things like that, and everything that was misinformation turned out to be true.
Well, if there was no Elon over at X, I firmly believe that we would be told to this day that there was plenty of water in those fire hydrants. And anyone who said otherwise is spreading misinformation.
100 days in, and crews like his continue clearing burned debris on some lots while others look untouched. According to the LA Department of Building and Safety last week, of the nearly 7,000 buildings destroyed in the Palisades, 12 permits have been issued to rebuild.
That's it?
12 permit. And wasn't it at 4 not that long ago?
Yes. And in Altadena, there was only 1 recently. Can't even blame Karen Bass for that one. That's LA County.
Yep.
The main issues, I would say, were our closing out inspections, just waiting on the city to get out, close out our fire debris permits. Although they published a guideline, each inspector seems to have a different criteria that he's following. Are you seeing?
So once again, there's no actual coordination on the ground with all the different city departments.
No, and this is what drives people crazy. It's one of the reasons that people hate foreign call centers. You call a foreign call center, and the credit card company, the cruise ship company, the fill-in-the-blank company, they have a set of policies. And if you're a longtime customer of that company, you figure out what the policies are. But training in these centers is poor, so they just kind of make up the rules as they go along, and the rules differ depending on who you get on the phone. And that drives people crazy because there's no consistency. Well, over at the city, they know that the boss wants them to speed up the process. The bureaucracy doesn't move that way. So you have the feeling of urgency at the top of the pyramid and no urgency anywhere else, or maybe even you don't have urgency at the top of the pyramid. I don't know if Bass actually means what she's saying. And what you end up with is different people doing different things and saying different things and no consistency. Well, these people need to have some kind of clear guidelines as to what to do so they can move on with their lives. And if you keep moving the goalposts and you keep changing the rules of the game, then it's a game that can't be won.
Just saying you're going to cut the red tape doesn't do anything. You have to organize your departments to work together, which does not happen in Los Angeles City or Los Angeles County.
No, and you look at her background and you look at her skill set. She was a member of Congress for a long time in a very safe district where she didn't really have to do anything. Before that, she was in the California legislature. She was a speaker, but she was a legislator. She never had to run anything at any point in her life. She was never an executive. And now she's an executive during a time of deep crisis, and she doesn't know what to do. And she's trying to figure it out on the job, but she's remedial.
Are you seeing one main particular complaint among residents?
No, I think what the issues that we hear over and over again are now.
Why is Ricardo Lara there?
That was a voice I was not expecting to hear.
I'm very kind of sketchy.
I hate that I could recognize his voice.
It's funny that you say that. I didn't say anything, but I thought, is that Ricardo Lara?
Particular complaint among residents?
No, I think what
most of the residents have complaints about you, buddy.
Oh, yes. And look on Twitter. They're all over the place.
the issues that we hear over and over again are now like it goes in stages, right? Immediately after the fires, we want to focus on getting those claims paid immediately.
How's that working out with all of the people who got screwed over by State Farm saying that they're being stonewalled and the FAIR plan not covering anybody that has smoke damage? Even if their house is uninhabitable, if it didn't burn down, the FAIR plan is screwing them over.
Well, and those are just the people who had plans. Many of them were dropped right before the fires.
Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara in the Palisades says California is having an insurance crisis.
Gee, who's been in charge of that department for the last 6 years?
Yeah, if only someone was in charge of the California Department of Insurance.
As rates increase for homeowners statewide, essentially billed for natural disasters.
And who authored the new rule change that would allow the insurers to pass on the cost to consumers of the FAIR plan going broke? That's right, Ricardo Lara, 6 weeks before the fires.
I am shocked that he made himself available for this piece.
This is why we need to focus on mitigation, bring the price down, bring competition back into these areas and bring the insurance rates down eventually.
No, there is no eventually there.
No.
Rates do not go down. That does not happen.
What do you think the city could be doing better?
Well, I think we could always do things better. I mean,
Boy, they found every useless politician and interviewed them for this piece.
always do things better. I mean, the one issue that we're grappling with now, as we talk about regularly, is waiving fees. And so we're working on that now to see what that would mean to the budget.
She's looking into if they can waive fees for all the people who had their lives destroyed that now have to go through the process of dealing with the city of Los Angeles and rebuilding. But
Okay.
she's not sure if they can get rid of the fees because the city's broke.
Let's just review this here for a second. With the Pacific Palisades, because Altadena is not part of the city of LA, so that's not under her umbrella. So let's just stick with the fire victims in the city of LA here for a second, because that's the population of people she's dealing with. You're dealing with one of the more affluent areas in all of Los Angeles. The people who had their homes burned down, they're not poor. They're without a house. And they're without any kind of stability in their life right now because their clothes burned down, their toothbrush burned down, their baby pictures burned down. All of that is now gone. So they've had to go out and replace all of those items. If you are affluent, you're fortunate in the sense that you have the money to go out and purchase those items. If you were in a poor area, you'd have different problems. But you're dealing with people who have a little bit of coin in the bank. The problem for them, although I'm sure they would like the fees to be waived, considering it was the city's negligence that allowed that fire to burn as long as it did. But what they need is they need you to be prompt. They need you to have inspectors there. They need to be able to get the inspection process completed. They need to be able to move on to the next phase. What they want is they want a house to live in as soon as possible. Yes, the fees are an annoyance, but that's not what's preventing them from having a house to live in. You guys taking forever and stonewalling and being inconsistent, that's the problem. So if you focus on the fees and you don't focus on the speed, you're not doing anything that's going to benefit them.
As far as waiving permits and fees, the mayor says that she could have an update as early as next week in her State of the City that's planned for Monday. Reporting live tonight, Matthew Seedorf, Fox 11 News.
Yeah, also expected to lay out her budget on Monday as well. Matthew, thank you. While Pacific Palisades marks recovery, Altadena still grieving. Newly released 911 logs.
Okay, so there's the latest on everything that happened with the rebuilding of the Palisades. Now, there was one interesting moment during the press conference that I wanted to point out. We played you the sound earlier this week of that town hall with the Palisades where upset residents asked the consulting firm that Karen Bass paid $10 million to, Haggerty Consulting, what it is they actually do. And the person who worked at Haggerty who was on the call could not answer the question.
Of course.
Karen Bass was asked how she feels Haggerty has been performing during this crisis. And she doesn't really have an answer.
Mayor, there's been some skepticism from Angelenos about Haggerty Consulting and the work that they're doing. How would you evaluate their work right now, and what would you tell Angelenos about what they're up to?
Well, first of all, I think it's a little too soon to evaluate their work.
What is their job? What do they do?
Well, she doesn't want any more negative news cycles. And if the politically connected consulting firms that she's parking the Brinks truck in their parking lot for are unpopular and they're not performing the tasks they're supposed to be performing, that's not a good reflection on her. So from her point of view, punting is the way to go.
But I will tell you that we established a contract with Haggerty, but we are also out to bid with an RFP. And
we gave $10 million to this company, but we're also looking to hire a different company.
Okay, so what? We're going to be more than $10 million in the hole when we're broke to begin with?
And we established that contract so we could be in alignment with the county and also with the state. So the RFP is alive. I imagine they will be applying, but I imagine other companies will be applying too. We did not want to put the city through a long RFP process. We needed a company to get on board right away.
We needed to hire a consulting firm that we don't know what exactly it is, what they do immediately. We didn't have time for a bidding process for consulting firms where we don't know what it is they do.
Okay, they don't know what it is they do.
And we had to align with the state. So the state and the county got bilked into giving money to this firm. So the city had to also play along. What does this company do? Karen Bass doesn't know.
And keep in mind, this is what they're doing when they claim they don't have time to do the basics. Why was it that the fire hydrants weren't checked to see if they were operational? Well, we don't have time for that. Why is it that you didn't tell the fire department that there was no water in the reservoir? There's only 24 hours in the day. They're broke when it comes to making sure the fire trucks are operational and the equipment is working, but they have $10 million to give to a bunch of people with useless degrees to do nothing. It's just unreal. This is why we get the government we get.
It's not a namsy-pamsy thing.
If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, with the end of the show quickly approaching, if you want to continue listening to us after we sign off at 3, that's easy to do.
All you got to do is search for The John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcasts, whether that's the Apple Podcasts app, iHeart, Spotify. Search for The John Phillips Show. Hit subscribe. You can download all the episodes. You can listen to these podcasts wherever you are, whether you're at work, whether you're at home, whether you're working out on the treadmill or loading the dishwasher.
What I haven't heard about is anything about dishwashers.
Well, now you have.
And Randy, you have an update on the process of counting all the votes in Oakland.
According to the San Francisco Chronicle, the Alameda County Registrar of Voters, which is taking 1 billion years to count 40,000 votes, says they'll have an update at 5 o'clock this afternoon. So maybe by 5 o'clock, we'll know who won the Oakland mayor's race to replace Shangi Tao.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But they're saying it could take as long as 5 weeks to certify it.
Yes. That we're not saying that this update will still have a determined winner. They might wait till the following Friday or the Friday after that or the Friday after that. But maybe, just maybe, if Lauren Taylor's lead holds, they'll call this thing immediately. If they don't, it's going to be a lot more frustration for the city of Oakland.
I just can't understand why there's no sense of urgency to get this done quickly.
It's Alameda County. Nothing works properly.
That's a city in crisis. If you are elected the next mayor, don't you want to start being able to get your team together now?
Of course. Especially in a recall election. But no, we're going to just kind of take our time, make sure we verify all the signatures. It's 40,000 votes. It's a tiny little special election that 20% of the population participated in. This is unacceptable.
So let's set up a process that makes the next mayor start off in the worst possible position imaginable.
Yep.
Great. Well, we know the city of Oakland has 1,000,001 problems right now. And we can add another one to the list as the teachers are now threatening to go on strike.
This in a district that has a massive budget deficit that was told about a year ago they have to close schools, refused to close schools, and now it's a complete nightmare. And they tried to force out the superintendent as well. Let's find out what's going on with the Oakland Teachers Union. Here's Cron 4.
Another strike might be in the works for Oakland teachers. Last night, the union voted to start the process and have members vote on whether or not to go on a one-day strike 2 weeks from now.
District's broke. What should we do about it?
We demand higher pay.
Because why not?
And this is coming.
It doesn't matter whether it's the schools, whether it's local cities or local counties. Every single piece of government that got these gigantic bailouts during COVID of all this one-time money bloated their budgets. Now the money's gone and everybody's broke and no one wants to make cuts.
No, and if you're the unions, you want them to spend even more.
That's what Cecily's going to do this summer in L.A.
Get that money!
And this is coming after they say the district has refused to be transparent about a budget deficit that hovers around $95 million. Crown 4's Teresa Stasio has more.
At least the school district could say we're not as broke as the city.
I guess.
Taking steps to strike. This letter spells it out, posted on the Oakland Education Association Facebook page on Wednesday. It asks its 3,000 members to cast their vote on a one-day strike that would take place May 1st.
Wait, they're going to strike in
May!
On May Day.
Member of the OEA bargaining team, and to me, a stable school, the importance of stable schools is that families and students know what to expect.
And posts like,
the hell does that even mean?
He kind of sounded like Ricardo Lara.
Just a little bit.
And posts like this one, union members talk about budget negotiations, some claiming that they have been kept in the dark about proposed cuts and layoffs by the district to try.
This is because the district was told they have to close schools, attendance is way down, and they refuse to do it.
In any other world, they would be closing locations. If you are a restaurant chain, even Starbucks has had to close locations for the first time in forever because there's just not the demand that used to exist. If you have enrollment that's in free fall and you can save money by closing schools that you don't need, then why wouldn't you? But they're not going to do it because the unions won't let them.
To try and manage a $95 million deficit. However, school officials say that deficit is now gone.
I know for a fact that all of our budget information, all of the discussions around our budget adjustment package have been held publicly. The teachers union has been consulted with directly, and I don't believe there is any information around the budget that people can't find or don't know.
Mike Hutchinson is with the Oakland Unified School District. He says that the district is on solid financial footing.
No, they're not.
Boy, if you just say there's no problem, then I guess you can get away with it. That's what Gavin's doing with the bullet train. Oh, the bullet train, it's a smashing success. It's fantastic. It's great. It's a huge success.
He says that the district is on solid financial footing for the first time in decades, and the district may soon...
And somehow they did that without closing any schools.
Yeah. Gee, I wonder if there's problems on the horizon.
And the district may soon leave state and county control. That was imposed in 2003.
Over the last 2 years, we've made historic progress with a series of budget adjustments and using our COVID relief dollars well, while we've also given out almost $100 million in raises to our employees.
And now they want more.
And they think they're fine. Everyone else is broke. The city's broke. The state's broke. Other cities in the state are broke. But oh no, San Diego Unified is broke. No, Oakland Unified. That's where the fiscal hawks are.
And we've reached the point now where just at the end of last week, we received word that we are finally leaving receivership after 22 years, and we're able to do it even a year sooner than we planned.
Hutchinson adds that the union is still under a contract, which he says gave a substantial raise in 2023.
Yeah, but that was a very long time ago.
Oh, they want a new one.
He adds, in addition, a one-day strike could hurt the most vulnerable, children.
Our students can't afford to lose a day from school. Our families have...
Even that school in Oakland that's right next to the prostitute homeless encampment.
You notice, by the way, that now that money's on the line, because if kids don't show up to school that day, they don't get money from the state, and they're really worried about that. So if the kids don't go to school for one day, that's going to damage their psyche. It's going to damage their ability to learn, all of those things. Yet they had no problem shutting everything down for 2 years during COVID.
Our families have it's going to really put our families in a difficult position.
In a statement, Oakland Unified says in part, quote, "We are hopeful that we can work together to find solutions and ensure a strong finish to the school year for all Oakland students," end quote. Cronfor reached out to...
Yeah, good luck with that. The teachers union wants a 3-day weekend, and they're going to get it.
Well, you know what's funny is if you go out and you're the school district and you say, oh, yeah, we're fine financially. We have no money problems at all. Whether you know it or not, what you're doing is you're opening up a lane for the union to demand a raise. Because if you are facing budget cuts or you are facing a storm, then politically speaking, it becomes a lot harder for the unions to ask for raises. But if you say it's nothing but green lights ahead of you, then why wouldn't they ask for a raise?
Cronfor reached out to union members multiple times and did not hear back. The union's letter maps out how members have until April 25th to vote. Teresa Estacio, Cronfor News.
So there's the latest on a potential one-day strike from Oakland Unified, and Oakland Unified, which had been warned over and over and over again this year that they were bankrupt, that they needed to close schools, now magically doesn't have a budget problem.
How can that man go on television and say that with a straight face? I mean, really? I guess if you're the reporter, you let him say whatever he's going to say, and then when he's proven to be wrong, then you come out and do a follow-up. But who believes that? You go from being completely broke and having to shut down a bunch of schools to no problems at all, nothing to see here in a matter of months.
Everything's fine now. We're great.
All right. Well, I guess we're going to have to push this car off a cliff to see what'll happen. Let's go to Dan in Sonoma. Dan, hello.
Gentlemen, I've been listening to your show for the better part of a week. It's a great show. I'm a first-time caller and first time listening to your show. It's well comprehended. You're nailing all the problems of California. But having said that, I was involved in the Republican Party some time ago. I was the second vice chairman of the Central Committee here in Sonoma County, where I live. I noticed two problems up and down the state. You know, you asked the question, how did we get here? It's a hot mess. There are two reasons for that. One, there's virtually no Republican Party to speak of anymore. It's not a conservative party. It's lost its teeth. It's lost its direction. And the other is the media. You listen to all the media sound bites that you've been playing. Where are the hard-hitting questions? The media seems to go out of its way to protect Gavin Newsom. They protect the state of California with the Democrats. They'll identify a problem, but they'll never make the connection that it's a Democrat that's responsible, and they sure as hell won't say Gavin Newsom is responsible.
Well, I think that is true for a couple of different reasons. One, many people in that profession certainly lean to the left and vote Democrat in their own personal life. But the other reason is just one that is realistically associated with their job. And that is, in a one-party state, if you're the party that's in charge, you control everything. You control the executive branch, the legislative branch, the judicial branch. You control the state government, the county government, the local government, all of it. And let's say your job is to report on, the school district. You have a job for a local television channel, and that's your beat. Well, if they cut you out of the information loop, you can't do your job. You can't file your reports if you don't have access to information. And if you report stories that make them look bad, what they will do to punish you is they will cut off your access to information. Now, there are reporters out there in this state, Ashley Zavala being one of them, who is shut out of a lot of that information, but they make that the story. They ask those questions. They chase people down in the hallway. They ask the uncomfortable questions that lead to certain uncomfortable truths, and they make a meal out of it. But it's just much easier to go the other way and to make the people in charge look good so you get the information that you need to do your job. It's a real problem, and it certainly is not part of the solution. If we're ever going to get out of this mess, we have to start asking tough questions to people who are in charge so that way the people of California can get the truth. And if they get the truth, there's no way to spin it that they've run the state into the ground.
But here's the big question. Who's going to be asking these questions? I mean, you had, let's say, Steve Garvey, who was running for Senate, last year. I mean, he ran kind of a milquetoast campaign. He wasn't hard-hitting. He had plenty of opportunity to identify his counterparts in the Democrat Party as responsible. I mean, let's just use an example here. You talked about the education system in Oakland. We all know there's a massive bureaucracy that is above the education system. Most of the money is filtered through that. What little comes out goes to the actual schools. Nobody ever mentions that. Garvey had an opportunity to mention that and many other things. And the biggest problem is we have no opposition here in California. The Republican Party is a milquetoast party. It's not conservative. Again, as a conservative, I was hated in my own party. Now, the template is right in front of them. What Trump is doing, and I'm not a big Trump supporter, but I admire what he's done. He's a no-nonsense guy. He stands up for what he believes in. He doesn't back down. I can't name one person in the Republican Party that does that. You had a gentleman on earlier this week. He was okay, but again, there's no fire in their voice. There's no moxie with these people. People are looking for leadership. Right now, you don't see it. And until you see it, you're going to have this ongoing one-party system and suffering throughout the state. And I don't see any other solution other than the Republican Party to finally stand up. Are they going to do it? I'm not going to hold my breath.
Well, the Garvey example that you gave is an interesting one because we invited him on this program all the time. And I think he showed up once or twice, and that was it. And we would offer him a platform where he could talk to the people of California about what direction he would take. He would take in the United States Senate, how he was different from Adam Schiff, those sorts of questions. And he just wouldn't return our calls, or his campaign wouldn't return our calls more often than not. And that was the case not just with us, but with other shops in Los Angeles and all throughout the state of California. And I do believe that when you're used to losing, as California Republicans are, they've been shut out of all the statewide constitutional offices since 2006 when Steve Poizner won for insurance commissioner and Arnold Schwarzenegger won for governor. And if you are a campaign consultant or someone who works for candidates and you get paid based on how much money they raise and spend, that's a tough business to be in now because you can't work for candidates who are regarded as being viable. But with Steve Garvey, he was a celebrity. And because he was a celebrity who was associated with the Dodgers when the Dodgers were winning, it became easy for him to raise money, and he would travel around the state and sign baseballs, those sorts of things. But the people around him didn't seem to want him to be opening his mouth. They thought that he could raise the money, he could pay their bills, he could spend money, they could get their cut of it, and if he didn't say anything spicy, he didn't do anything to get in trouble, he didn't do anything to stir the pot, that they could just keep that going all the way through the campaign and everyone would get paid and everyone would be happy. Well, when you just have him signing baseballs and raising money, but he's not out there making the argument in front of people, then you're essentially conceding the race to the other side, but making money in the process. And that's part of the problem. You should be out there engaged in the battle of ideas and not just wanting to make a paycheck.
Well, see, therein lies the problem, because having been inside the party, there is an apparatus, for lack of a better word, within the party to keep conservatives out. And so I'm not surprised that Garvey was silenced, because they don't want to stir the pot. They don't want to make any stands. My response to that has always been the same thing. If you're at the bottom of the political heap, which the Republicans are, you have nothing to lose. Go out swinging. No pun intended for Garvey, but that's what the Republicans need to do. But the mindset is, and I've heard this directly from the leadership in the California Republican Party, we don't want conservatives because we don't think they can win. The problem is that your constituents, the voters, we used to do precinct walking, you talk to the Republican voter, they don't want what the Republican Party is projecting here in this state. They miss the Reagan days. They admire the strength of Trump, but you don't see it again in this Republican Party. It needs to be scrapped. Most people think that if you're a Republican in the state, you're a conservative. That's not true. Most of the rank and file have gone moderate. Why, I don't know. But unless they change their ways, I suggest the California Republican Party be scrapped and started from scratch.
Well, sometimes it's important to be in the water when the wave hits. And the only way to be in the water when the wave hits is to be out there making the argument that what's going on right now in the state isn't working. And so many of the elected Republicans are happy to go up to Sacramento and vote the right way and lose every vote, and that's it. And they think that that's good enough. And that's not good enough. You have to be prepared. You have to be engaged. You have to be making the argument that there is a better way for the state of California than how we're being governed right now. If everything is great in this state, why is it that the shampoo is behind bulletproof glass? Why is it that there's a homeless encampment on all the freeways? Or why is it that we can't buy insurance? If everything is so hunky-dory in this state, then why do we live like this? And the elected members of the Republican Party, the handful that we have, should be out there making those arguments every single day. And if they don't, if they just vote the right way, well, that's the bare minimum. But it's not a way to get out of the hole. Thank you for the call, Sarah.